the sword that betrayed a king, the murder that changed England. The sound of metal echoed within a cathedral. It wasn't the noise of battle nor the clash of armies in open field. It was the sound of a sword raised against an unarmed man in a sacred place. In that instant, the blood that stained the floor of Canterbury didn't just kill an archbishop. It wounded the very authority of a king and forever changed the destiny of England. For centuries, this story has been told as a conflict between faith and power, between the crown and the cross. But what almost no one immediately realizes is that it all began with friendship, loyalty, and trust. A friendship so deep that when it turned into rivalry, it produced one of the most symbolic betrayals in English history. A sword that should never have been drawn. A mistake that would echo for generations. Can you imagine the weight of governing a fragmented kingdom, surrounded by internal and external enemies, where every political decision had to please nobles, bishops, and the people themselves? Now imagine realizing, too late, that some words spoken in a moment of fury would be interpreted as a death sentence. What seemed like just a royal outburst would end up becoming an assassination that would shake all of England. Before we continue this amazing story, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment on what fascinates you most about medieval history. This helps the channel grow and allows more people to journey with us through episodes like this one. Now, go back in time and enter this drama that mixes power, faith, and blood. In the 12th century, England lived under the reign of Henry II, an energetic, intelligent monarch determined to restore order after decades of chaos. The country still felt the wounds of the civil war known as the Anarchy, a period in which weak kings and succession disputes had fragmented power. Henry wanted to centralize authority, strengthen the law, and ensure that no one was above the crown, not even the church. At that time, the Catholic Church was an almost untouchable force. Clergymen accused of crimes were tried in ecclesiastical courts, often escaping severe punishment. For the king, this was a direct affront to royal justice. For Rome, any interference was seen as political heresy. The stage was set for an inevitable conflict, even if no one knew it yet. It is in this context that Thomas Becket emerges. Son of a London merchant, he was not born into nobility, but rose to prominence thanks to his sharp intelligence, charisma, and quiet ambition. Even as a young man, Becket moved with ease through the corridors of power, dressing luxuriously, hunting alongside the king, and sharing laughter, wine, and secrets. Henry II saw in him not just an ally, but a friend. When Henry appointed him Chancellor of the realm, Becket became his right-hand man. He managed taxes, negotiated with nobles, and fiercely defended the king's interests. Many believed that by making him Archbishop of Canterbury, Henry would secure control of the church. After all, who better than his most loyal friend? But something changed the moment Becket donned the sacred robes. The transformation was almost immediate. The man who once loved luxury began to wear simple clothes. The king's advisor became the uncompromising defender of the church's autonomy. Silently, Becket made a choice that would define his destiny. For him, serving God now came before serving the king. Henry did not perceive the chasm that was opening between the two until it was too late. Tensions grew like a slow storm. Henry tried to impose the constitutions of Clarendon, a set of laws that limited ecclesiastical power. Becket resisted. They argued, shouted, and broke apart. The former friend became an obstacle. At one point, Becket fled into exile in France, while the king seethed with rage in his palaces. Each letter exchanged carried more resentment than conciliation. Years later, a fragile reconciliation allowed Becket's return to England. But the atmosphere was explosive. He excommunicated bishops allied with the king, reigniting royal fury. In a fit of rage, Henry is said to have uttered words that would prove fatal. Something like, "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest?" He may not have known it, but 4 knights heard it as an order. On the cold afternoon of December 29, 1170, the knights crossed Canterbury armed and determined. The cathedral was shrouded in silence. Becket, warned of the danger, refused to flee. For him, dying there would be a testament. When the men entered, shouting accusations, he calmly replied, saying he was ready to die for the church. The swords were raised. The first blow missed. The second split open the scalp. The third was fatal. Blood flowed across the stone floor as the echo of metal filled the nave. One of the knights then struck the lifeless skull, scattering the brains on the sacred ground. The sword, symbol of the king's authority, had betrayed its own sovereign by creating a martyr. The shock was immediate. England trembled. Murder inside a cathedral was unthinkable. Henry II, upon learning of what had happened, fell into despair. He had not ordered the death, but the world believed he had. The church reacted with fury. Becket was canonized only 3 years later. His tomb became a place of pilgrimage, famous throughout Europe. The consequences were profound. Henry was forced to do public penance, walking barefoot and being whipped by monks. The power of the church was strengthened. The attempt to control the clergy failed, and the king came to be remembered as the monarch who, unintentionally, created a saint. From that day on, nothing would ever be the same in the relationship between the crown and faith. To this day, historians debate whether Henry could have prevented this tragedy. Some see Becket as a man of absolute conviction. Others see him as someone who allowed himself to be consumed by spiritual power. But the fact is that that sword, stained with blood in Canterbury, changed the course of England and left an eternal lesson about words spoken in the heat of anger. This story reminds us that power without control can lead to irreversible consequences, and that the greatest betrayals don't always come from declared enemies, but from thoughtless decisions. If you enjoyed this journey through history, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which other king, myth, or event you'd like to see featured here. The past still holds many stories waiting to be told.